Coming up, Debbie and I here for our Friday roundup. We're going to talk about Trump's big speech, about the theme of unity and what it means. We'll also talk about the Secret Service and also about the passing of Debbie's mom, the significance of death and of life. Hey, if you're watching on Rumble, listening on Apple, Google, or Spotify, please subscribe to my channel. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
It's our Friday roundup for Debbie and me. And honey, you'll notice that I'm wearing my Trump shirt.
After that amazing speech, I can see why.
I know. We got this shirt in Bedminster, I guess it was a year or so ago when we had the meeting with Trump. And, but...
No, honey, I think that was a couple of years ago.
Was it a couple of years ago?
I think so,
yeah. Well, let's talk about the speech. It was... It's almost seemed like Trump has been, this whole convention, in a little bit of a more somber, a little more emotional frame of mind. Even when you first saw him walking through the corridor, this is when he was just being introduced, he wasn't speaking, a few days ago, he seemed almost on the verge of tears. He seemed like he was holding back emotion. And I think the convention has gone amazingly well. Even the guys at CNN and MSNBC seem a little unnerved by the power of the messages from the families of the fallen veterans in Afghanistan, to the people talking about how their families have been destroyed by fentanyl and open borders and drugs. I mean, all of this has struck a very emotional chord. And I think it's the MAGA spirit, which is optimistic in some way, but also realistic in another. And Trump sort of brought it all together, I think, in a way that was just beautiful.
Yeah, well, and also just the fact that the turning of his head miraculously saved his life. This would have been a very different convention had the shooter succeeded. And so I think that realization was felt by not just Trump, but everyone there. The standing ovation, the energy in the room. It was just beautiful to watch. And just the fact that it could have been a very different scenario had it worked.
I think it's interesting that Trump is not shying away from an explicitly religious interpretation. In other words, he will specifically say, God's hand, in a sense, was on me. And that's not characteristic of Trump. I mean, it's not that Trump never speaks about God, but he speaks about him in kind of a whimsical way. By the way, Reagan did too.
Yeah.
Reagan, he'd use phrases like the man upstairs.
Reagan didn't wear religion on his sleeve.
No.
And so, but Christianity exuded from his, from him, from his demeanor.
But his tone was understated.
Very much so.
And as I say with Trump, I think, this happened to Lincoln in a different way. And of course with Lincoln, not with the assassination, because the assassination killed him. But as the Civil War progressed, Lincoln's rhetoric became more providential. Mm-hmm. And he began to see, I think, himself and the country being steered by the mysterious hand of Providence.
Mm-hmm. But I do think that providentially, his assassination, Lincoln's, brought the nation together in a way that it would not have happened had it not happened.
Very interesting.
But I do not think that would happen today. And God knew that, it wouldn't unify us at all. It would take the exact opposite effect.
Yeah, these things are very complicated. I think this is really why, with providential explanations, they're correct, but there's always a counterpoint. It's almost like when God does a miracle, he always leaves room for a skeptic to say, no, this is an improbable event, but it's not necessarily a divine event. Now, to apply this thinking skeptically to Lincoln, if Lincoln had lived, Lincoln was actually quite gentle on the South, believe it or not. Lincoln, for example, made it pretty clear that after the war, basically the Southerners would be let back into the Union, no questions asked, pretty much. That people who had served in Congress and the Senate from the Confederacy, who had left, would be allowed back and could run for office. So Lincoln was liberal in that old sense of the term. Now, after Lincoln was assassinated, the Republicans who were running the place, remember that the Democrats had pulled out of Congress to join the Confederacy, not the Northern Democrats, but the Southern Democrats, but the Republicans had a huge majority. They became very vengeful toward the South.
Yeah.
And they took it out on the South, and the South then turned around and took it out on the blacks. So when you look at the rise of the Klan, you look at racial terrorism, lynching, a lot of that got really bad in the 1890s and the early 1900s. And the reason was that the South was smarting from the blows that had been inflicted by the Republicans in the North. So anyway, it's a complicated history. But fast forwarding to Trump, I think that, again, a skeptic would say, well, if God wanted to spare Trump, did God really want the other guy to be killed?
Right.
So again, there is room for the sort of non-religious interpretation. But I don't think the religious interpretation is wrong either. There's nothing wrong in looking at this because statistically, it is almost improbable to the probability of zero, right? That some guy would turn his head in such a way. And you and I have shot the AR-15, right? You cannot miss with that weapon, right?
No, you can't. And if you're a skilled marksman, you absolutely do not miss.
Right. I mean, I wasn't missing. I'm no skilled marksman, but you just point a red dot and press the trigger and it's going to hit the target.
Yeah.
And this guy got, 7 or 8 shots? Not one shot, multiple shots.
Yeah.
So this is
why he got someone in the audience, several people in the audience, because of the multiple rounds. Not to mention, had he gotten Trump, inevitably he would have gotten whoever was right behind Trump because it would have gone right through.
I mean, it's like you say, it is almost hard to comprehend the mood of the country. I mean, in a way, look, the Republican nominee and former president almost assassinated, and there hasn't been a single riot. There hasn't been a single blowing up of a building. There hasn't been a single person shot. So for the left, which keeps saying that, the right-wing MAGA types are the domestic terrorists.
Had it been Obama or Biden, you better believe
there would have been all kinds of civil unrest and the screaming would be deafening. And the media would be egging on the
and we're the insurrectionists, aren't we?
Right. So telling.
Yeah, such
but
BS.
Now Trump is striking a tone of unity. But I want to actually clarify what we mean by unity, because there's a little bit of a problem here. And that is that in the Reagan era, if you have two people and they agree on a goal, but they disagree on the means. For example, we're going to, let's just say, Los Angeles. Should we go by car or should we take the train? We're disagreeing about the means, but we agree where we're going. Now we can probably find some compromise. Hey, let's take the train part of the way, then we can rent a car and drive. So that would be a way of two people. But now, if I'm going to Los Angeles and you're going to Maine, and we are implacable about our destinations, and our destinations are incompatible with each other, and in fact the opposite of each other, my question is, how do you have, quote, unity? Do we unify with the people who are trying to destroy the country? No, right? We can't. And MAGA doesn't mean that. MAGA doesn't mean that we're going to take the people who want to save America and the people who want to destroy America and find a midpoint. Not at all.
There's no middle point.
There's no midpoint. So MAGA must mean, I think this is what Trump is saying, although saying in his own way, is we actually want to unify the country against the people who want to destroy it. That's the true meaning of unity. It's not a unity that includes everybody.
No.
It's a unity that excludes the people who are trying to destroy the country.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And same with Reagan, by the way.
Exactly. Because, to do a middle ground in that It's like, how do you destroy and not destroy at the same time?
Makes no sense.
You can't.
Right.
So, but I do think that part of the unifying message with Trump is unifying the Republican Party, unifying the conservatives, because we tend to self-destruct. You know, I've seen this before. Saw it in Venezuela, the conservative movement there, which wasn't really much of one, but it was center-right, self-destructed, giving way to the left to just take over the country entirely. And this happens a lot in a lot of the South American countries. As you know, the right self-destructs because one is, more principled than the other. This one doesn't agree on this or doesn't agree on that.
The Christians and
Exactly. So what happens? The left, being as cunning and evil as the left is everywhere in the whole world, they take full advantage of that. Self-destruction of the right-wing parties.
When we come back, let's talk about the inner divide and the inner tensions inside the Republican Party. The world is in turmoil. One indication of this, oil. Now, sales of oil have historically been predominantly in U.S. dollars, but recently oil producers like Saudi Arabia have been exploring options for sales in other currencies. Oil sales in other currencies would lessen the demand for the U.S. dollar. And so I ask you, if there's less demand for the U.S. dollar, what happens to the U.S. dollar? Well, it's reasons like this that I buy gold from Birch Gold and why I feel they are a valuable resource to you as well. For over 20 years, Birch Gold Group has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. If you want to learn more, text Dinesh to 989898. Get your free information kit on gold. No obligation, only information. Birch Gold has earned my trust. They've got an education-first approach. They've got thousands of happy customers. They've got countless 5-star reviews. So protect your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. To find out more, text Dinesh to 989898 today. Okay, I've never seen a discount this big from Balance of Nature, and this discount expires today. So today's the day to order. Look, if you've listened to me for some time, you've heard me rave about this. It's Balance of Nature, fruits and veggies in a capsule. These are great supplements. The customers rave about them, how much they love Balance of Nature, and how good it makes them feel. So if you've been on the fence about ordering, today is the day to jump the fence, because right now, for a limited time, one more day, Balance of Nature is taking 50% off your first order as a preferred customer during their summer savings promotion. But you got to use my special code, which is America when you order. Take the risk-free money-back challenge today. Use discount code America to get 50% off your first order. Here's the number to call, 800-246-8751. The number again, 800-246-8751, or you can go to balanceofnature.com. When you use discount code America, you'll get 50% off. This is an extraordinary offer, but only today, the last day. Get 50% off your first set today. Debbie and I were just talking at the end of the last segment about the divide and the infighting within the Republican Party. Now, I saw a meme on CNN, and they were acting like this is highly significant. Prominent people from Republican times past who are not at this convention. So George W. Bush is not at the convention. Paul Ryan is not at the convention. Apparently Mitt Romney has skipped the convention. Liz Cheney is not to be seen anywhere. So, but I don't think that you and I are worried about these guys not showing up. Admittedly, some of these people were standard bearers of the Republican Party, right? I mean, one is a former president, one is a former nominee. But I think what this shows is the Republican Party has shifted in what we think is a positive direction. Absolutely.
They are part of the Republican Party that was despised by a lot of people who thought that the Republican Party was for the rich and for the elite.
And for endless wars.
Absolutely.
And for giving, by the way, let's be honest, giving lip service to social conservatism, but not doing thing about it.
Not doing anything, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, for George Bush was certainly, in terms of his fidelity to the Christian cause, in that sense, a much bigger Christian than, say, Trump. But who overturned Roe versus Wade?
Exactly right. 100%. It just, so the fact that these people are adamant about not supporting Trump and not supporting the new movement within the Republican Party, which is a populist movement, that is not a bad thing, by the way, because that is the one thing that kept us from winning any of these recent elections. Populism won in 2008 with Barack Obama.
I mean, let's pause for a second, right? How can someone because the Democrats are always talking about democracy, right? And what is democracy? It is the people are deciding the government. The people are choosing their representatives. So how can you, on the one hand, affirm democracy and then reject and deride populism? You as a politician are paying too much attention to the views of the people.
Right.
You are trying to connect yourself too closely to I think what they're really saying, and they don't want to say it, is you are waking the people up and mobilizing the people against the con game that we, the elites, have set up that's working beautifully for us. Every time there's a war, and people have to remember, there's a war, we're sending money to Ukraine. No, we're not. We're sending money to our own defense contractors who turn around and funnel a bunch of that money back to the politicians who then use it to get reelected. So this is a domestic racket masquerading as helping Ukraine. And this game has been going on, frankly, on the right and on the left. The left is bigger on the domestic programs, and the Republicans are bigger on cashing in on the defense industry, but both have been cashing in. Let's be honest about it.
100%. That's,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Trump is disrupting that whole operation. And so the racketeers, even on the Republican side, are like, wait, we had this cushy thing going. We might have been the minority party, but lots of money was coming onto the table our way.
Yeah. I don't know about these guys. Romney, Bush, who's the other? Ryan. Because, Cheney, are they really okay with a Democrat winning the election? Are they really okay with this?
Right. This to me tells me they're shockingly bad character, all of them, because that's. It's one thing, and to be fair, Bill Barr, even Chris Christie, there's some of these guys who are very anti-Trump, but they stop short. They're like, Biden, this is too much.
Right.
Because we're not just dealing here with
Haley.
Left of center. Right, Nikki Haley. These are people who have said, there's a limit. And so Barr doesn't like Trump. Trump, even when Barr endorses Trump throws out an insult, basically saying, I used to call you fat and lazy and lethargic and stupid. I'm going to take back the word lethargic. Which is, by the way, the one word you probably shouldn't take back, because a big porpoise like Barr, if there's one thing he still is, it is lethargic.
Yeah. No, it's quite comical, but it is good that they have actually seen the light, and they're
pulling back.
They're pulling back. They're saying, you know what? We may not like him, but he's our candidate, and because he's our candidate, we're going to support him because we do not like the alternative.
And the issues we believe in are going to be, at least to an extent, carried through by Trump and not by Biden.
Exactly. And so I just don't understand these other. I think those guys are going to be a reap of history because nobody's.
Well, I think what's happened with them is this. They have realized, to their dismay, that, quite frankly, if any of those guys were to walk into the Republican convention today, they would get booed.
Well, yeah, exactly. Nobody would welcome them.
So think of it. These are people who were once hailed. Think, when I made the Obama film, my first film, it was anti-Obama, but it was, in a sense, helping Romney.
Right.
And as much as anyone, I wanted Romney to win that election. So so think of how far things have changed. And it's not that we've changed. It's not like we've developed this animus toward. It's Romney's petty bitterness toward Trump and toward the whole MAGA movement. And then you go, what's eating that guy?
Well, to be honest, I didn't like Romney either. I didn't like him. I just thought he was a stuffy,
even then,
elitist, even then. But he was our candidate, and I I actually did block walking for him.
So you sucked it up.
I made phone calls for him. I sucked it up. I did, because I was one of these volunteers back in the day that I was determined that we needed to win that election. We needed to get...
And you recognize the danger Obama posed.
I did, but I also recognized that Romney was not going to win.
Yeah,
I knew that early on, unfortunately. Right. So I was not shocked in the least that he did not win. But all that to say is that, you know, we do have unity, I believe, with the people that count.
Yeah, I think I'm really happy that DeSantis got a big stage at the convention,
yes.
and I think he did a good job.
He did.
And Nikki Haley as well.
Yes.
And you know, there's a little bit of bad blood, I think, there. But the bad blood is partly because, and look, Trump is not innocent here, because there tends to be vitriol going back and forth. But to Nikki Haley's credit, she went up there, she gave her speech, and so there is de facto unity. And I think this is something, in fact, I saw people like Van Jones, even Jake Tapper, they're noting it, and they're quietly impressed by it. In other words, they're not for it because they don't want the Republicans to be unified. But, I mean, Van Jones literally said the Republicans are coming together and the Democrats are coming apart. His other line that I want to quote from yesterday is he goes, Trump defeated a bullet and Biden can't defeat a virus. I mean, some of the people on the left are sputtering with rage about this, that he even said that.
Wow.
But Van Jones, without changing sides, will say stuff like this because he's observant.
Yeah.
And he's willing to say it.
Yeah. Look, what do you think the chances are of Biden actually giving it to Kamala?
Well, we have seen of late the first indications that Biden himself may be entertaining an exit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because there clearly are two factions in the Democratic Party, right? There is a media faction, now apparently covertly supported by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, which is kind of significant, right? The leader of the Senate and the House, to try to push Biden out.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you can imagine which side Jill Biden is on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Obama he's a master of the double game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to know. Whatever this guy's doing is basically...
You don't want to do it.
I mean, he's basically taking orders straight from Satan, right? so you want to figure out, like, where's Satan's role in this whole thing? You could do... You're pretty much on track if you follow Obama.
Yeah.
But this guy is quite capable of, on the one hand, shoring up Biden,
mm-hmm.
on the other hand, pretending to shore up Biden and stabbing him in the back from the other side, because Obama never likes to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And if he thinks that the wind is shifted against Biden so that even his influence is insufficient
mm-hmm.
in saving Biden, he will defect to the other side and take Biden down. I mean, he's never respected Biden.
No, he never has. But like I said, I personally think it's the Biden administration.
It is the Biden administration.
So I think for him, it's going to be like, geez, you know, I had this puppet. I had this puppet and I was going to do another term, and he's ruining it because this puppet is like no good anymore, you know?
Right. The ventriloquist doll is basically gone kaput.
Yeah, it's gone kaput. So now I need to find another one, and I don't think I will.
Its lips don't move anymore. It's like, you know, the ventriloquist doll is essentially turned into some kind of a mummy.
Yeah. So I think Obama is probably quite upset about the whole thing, but not because of the obvious reasons, but actually because
of the effect on him.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the increasing cost of health insurance? Have you had enough of not having control over your healthcare dollars? Well, introducing ShareRight, ShareRight, healthcare done the right way. At ShareRight, you're not just a number, you're part of a caring community. Forget about paying excessive premiums. With ShareRight, you stand to save 30 to 50% compared to other health insurance. Think about what you could do with all those savings, but it's more than just savings. ShareRight ensures you have access to the care you deserve precisely when you need it, from routine checkups to unexpected emergencies. With ShareRight, your healthcare is their priority. So empower yourself today. Take control of your healthcare costs. Visit joinshareright.org/Dinesh to learn more. See how much you can save. Visit joinshareright.org/Dinesh. Again, it's joinshareright.org/Dinesh for healthcare done the right way. You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of their box stores or shopping channels the way they used to. They've been part of this cancel culture, and so they want to pass the savings directly onto you by having a $25 extravaganza. Now, when Mike started MyPillow, it was just a one-product company, just the pillow, but with the help of his dedicated employees, Mike now has hundreds of products, some of which you may not even know about. So to get the word out, I want to invite my viewers and listeners to check out their $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. 6-pack towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels, you guessed it, $25. And for the first time ever, the premium MyPillows with the all-new Giza fabric, $25. By the way, orders over $75 get free shipping as well. The amazing offer won't last long. Take advantage of it. Call 800-876-0227. The number again, 800-876-0227, or go to mypillow.com. To get the discount, to get the free shipping, you need to use the promo code. It's DINESH, Dinesh. I thought I would ask Debbie and talk to her about these reports coming out from the U.S. government and from the intelligence agencies that there's some intelligence that Iran has designs on assassinating Trump. Now, I got to be honest and tell you my first reaction. It's complete BS. And I say that because it's coming at a time when all eyes are on the Secret Service, when there's a great deal of scrutiny on this existing attempted assassination. That one was most certainly not done by Iran. And so this is a pure deflection. I'm not saying the Iranians are not capable of it or that wouldn't be their intention. What's your take, just your instinctive take on the idea that, let's watch out for what Iran is doing? My point is, actually, not right now. Mm-hmm. I'm a little more focused on something that seems to be very insidious, which is too many acts of incompetence that are independent of each other and therefore suggest something more nefarious or invidious that is afoot.
Well, that is true because it happened to come out now of all times. They've probably and in all actuality, I think Iran has probably wanted to do this to Trump for how many years now?
For 8 years.
So
not to mention the fact that these intelligence agencies are habitual liars. These are the people who put out the Hunter Biden false story. These are the people who promoted Russia collusion. I mean, they're professional liars. They lie for a living. But that doesn't mean we are accustomed to thinking they lie for a living, but no, they wouldn't lie to the American people. Well, yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
And they lie for the Democrats.
Yeah. Now, do I think they're lying about Iran doing this? No, I don't. Because I do think Iran wants Trump out. Because let me just tell you, I hate the Iranian government. I hate them. They have unleashed terror all over the world, including Israel, South America. As you know, they're in Venezuela. They're all over Venezuela. They're in the parliament in Venezuela. So I cannot stand these people. I know that they're capable of doing it because they do want a caliphate. Okay.
And they embrace terror.
And they embrace terror. And they know that if Trump is at the helm, their agenda is going to come to a screeching halt.
I mean, look at the way their agenda has advanced under Obama and now under Biden.
I mean, look, so of course they want him gone. Of course they do. So do I believe that they have a plot? I do believe it. I just think it's weird timing that the government is coming out with this right now.
Let's look at some of the details of this attempted assassination and sort of put them together. First of all, let me just state the incompetence theory so you can reflect on how inherently implausible it is. You have a 20-year-old who comes out of nowhere, and this guy has evidently outsmarted the entire U.S. Secret Service. And how has he done it? He shows up at the rally. They see him. They also know that he has a rangefinder, which is a device to measure distance. They know that he has a backpack. He is dressed up in camouflage as if he's about to do a shooting. He then ascends to the roof of the closest building to give you a straight shot at Trump. The Secret Service knows about this in advance and does not have Trump moved. They don't say, stop the rally, get out of there, we have to address this threat. None of that. They let Trump keep speaking. Okay? This guy is on the roof and he's spotted by people.
A lot of people.
Who point him out to the authorities and the cops, and the cops do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a report that one cop began to climb up toward the guy. The guy points a gun at him. The cop turns around and walks back down. Okay, I'm not done. Then you have a sharpshooter, a counter sniper, so to speak, who has his weapon pointed and trained on the guy. He doesn't have to look for him. He already has him in his sights. However, instead of keeping his eye on him, he draws back, pulling his face away from the gun. Then the shooter starts shooting. Bam, 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 bam. Then this guy goes to his gun. Bam, takes him out. Right? So look at the sequence of events here. Now, add to that reports that they pulled security away from Trump to divert to Jill Biden, that Trump requested additional security that was not granted across the board. All of this, I'm just itemizing the facts and adding them up. Now, look, again, when you have a professional operation that fell short because, they were too DEI, so they had some women who were not big enough to block Trump. I get all that, and I agree that that's part of the picture. But I cannot believe for a minute that any kind of sophisticated trained operation with snipers and people who have trained for this could do an incompetence of this magnitude. It makes no sense. No. And I'm not alone in thinking that.
No, you're not. I mean, really, it's either complete and utter incompetence or on purpose.
But I'm saying it cannot be.
There's no middle ground.
Right. There's no middle ground, but I'm eliminating the first option for the simple, because it's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're saying it was on purpose.
Right. I'm saying that if you have, it's kind of like saying...
now, who do you think was behind it?
So there are a number of possibilities because think of it. If you and I were investigating a murder, what would we ask? Who has the motive?
Mm-hmm.
Who has the opportunity?
Right.
And who acted in a manner consistent with having done this deed?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So let's just say if it was the mafia,
mm-hmm.
It's a rival gang, so that's their motive.
Mm-hmm.
They have plenty of guns, they have opportunity. And let's just say that after the murder or after the robbery, they were all seen in furs and new cars. So in other words, the loot is being spent. So you add it all up, it's like, of course they did it,
mm-hmm.
right? Now let's look at this situation, right? You have Trump surging ahead of Biden in the polls.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Trump showing dynamism and Biden showing basically retardation.
Right.
So who benefits from removing...
I would say senility.
Senility.
Yeah.
Who benefits from removing this powerful opponent?
Mm-hmm.
The Biden regime does.
Of course.
Right? Second,
Biden.
Who has the opportunity? Who is overseeing the whole operation? Who does the Secret Service report to? Department of Homeland Security. Mayorkas. Who does Mayorkas report to? Biden. So again, am I saying that everybody was in on it? No, but everybody doesn't need to be in on it. It just has to be enough people, high up enough, who go, you know what? If we kind of slip up and something happens, and then all of us just go, we goofed. But Trump is out of the picture.
So let me throw out this, let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. The fact that this kid did this on his own accord, and it happened to be that day, and so,
I'm saying he didn't.
Okay, so you're saying that this kid was put up to it.
Well, I'm saying that the kid may have had the motivation to do it, but so for example, let's look at another little detail. This kid could have gone to any building a normal person would be like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the closest building. It's obviously going to be guarded. I'm going to go to a faraway spot where I can get a view of Trump, where they're not going to see me and prevent me from shooting, because they're surely going to have an open roof covered.
Now,
he knew exactly where to go.
Okay, now let me also continue the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
What if, okay, the Biden administration, Mayorkas, whoever, said, Trump goes to a lot of rallies. Just the off chance that somebody wants to do something, kind of let it happen.
Yes.
That could be a possibility too.
Well, of course it could be. But I think that, yes, it could be in general. But I think that the way that the left is so insidious that they never leave these things completely to chance.
Yeah.
They're not the type to do that. There have also been a couple of people noting small things that I want to mention just because we want to factor them in. One, for some reason, the media was all covering this event live. They don't always cover Trump rallies live. They were covering this one live.
Let's just make of it. MSNBC?
Yes, they were all covering it live.
Yeah.
Number two, a company that has connections to the Brookings Institution, to the Democrats, shorted Truth Social on the day before the assassination, did a massive dumping of shares of Truth Social, almost as if they knew that there would be a crash of Truth Social. One day before the assassination attempt, a giant trade betting that Truth Social would go under, right? Now think about that again. I'm not saying they knew anything. We don't know what they knew, but I'm just putting many pieces together of a jigsaw together.
Yeah.
And far from spouting a conspiracy theory, I'm actually using the empirical data to try to draw the most probable conclusion to be drawn from those facts. And we'll be right back. I want to turn in our last segment to a little more personal note and talk a bit about Debbie's mom. Your mom passed away now, 8 days, just over a week ago. And you said before that it's something that you anticipated. In some ways, I think you even mourned for her because we thought she would pass away in March. And when we visited her in March, she looked on the edge. I mean, she looked on the verge. And we were given a booklet that identified the signs of death. And I asked you, as I was reading through it, how many of these signs does she have? And you go, all of them, right? So we expected it. And then your mom made a recovery of sorts, to the point where I think you and I were even joking. What do these doctors know by recommending that she go to hospice? You're supposed to have only 6 months to live. This woman, you said your mom has 9 lives. You're like, she's gonna be going for a while.
Yeah.
And yet that while turned out to be a couple months, maybe 3 months.
Yeah.
And then she had chronic ailments that kicked in and ultimately did her in.
Yes.
Talk a bit about your mom and just that experience of going through this.
Well, as you've mentioned, this surge that she had was such a gift because I didn't think it would happen.
Right.
We did think that mom was going to pass away back in March, and I did. As you know, I became a kind of a mess. I cried just about every day, and then I made peace with it. I just told God, look, I'm okay if my mom passes because I know she's had a beautiful long life. Just give me peace because there's things that I need to keep doing, like the podcast and the movie and all these things. And as you know, I made about 15 trips to see mom. Back and forth, so I got to spend a lot of time with her. I knew that it was important for her because she was my best friend and my greatest cheerleader.
She was.
She really was.
I mean, now right before she died, the nurse at the hospice called you and go, Debbie.
Well, let me go back even further than that. Yeah. When we were on the trip, my mother kept declining.
Yep.
And I did beg her beg her to wait for me.
Yep.
And she did say, I will.
And she did.
She did say, I will, as you know. And we were one of the last flights, if not the last flight, to land at IAH on Sunday night before the hurricane hit. And as you know, it hit on Monday. And power went out, everything was, the airport was completely closed. The roads were impassable. And then Tuesday morning, I get a call from the hospice nurse, and she said, when are you planning to come? And I had planned to go Friday, the 12th.
Yeah.
And she said, you need to come now. And I was like, but the airport is closed. I can't even drive. I don't know what to do. And she said, well, she's not going to last much longer. And so I got down on my knees. I prayed. The airport opened at like 4 p.m. and I took that 6 p.m. flight to Harlingen. Got there Tuesday night. Yep. She was still lucid. She was still able to know I was there. I spent all day with her Wednesday. We hugged, and in fact, her caretaker took a photo of us, an incredible photo of me hugging her for the last time, because after that, she went into a coma.
Right.
And so that was an incredible photo that I will cherish forever, because it was our last moment together.
Right.
And as you know, she's been my mom for 58 years.
Well, you showed me a photo where you're a baby, and so you're like, she brought me into the world, right? And then you saw her off, right?
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, it was in fact a beautiful death.
It was beautiful.
And say why, because here was your mom, and you have a brother, so it was you and your brother, and both of you were right by her side, and his wife, and that's kind of the best way to go.
Yes.
Some people think the best way to go is in your sleep, and I don't think that that's a bad way to go. I sometimes joke the best way to go is the firing squad.
Oh, honey, stop it.
That's just me going out there.
That's just you being goofy as usual.
That's just me being goofy as usual. Introducing a moment of levity and an inappropriate occasion.
Exactly.
And I do want to remind you that I'm going to be actually the one giving the tribute to your mom.
You are. And I
you're a little worried, I
can't
think.
wait. Oh, boy. No, but seriously.
Yeah.
And it not only that, but as... when she took her last breath, we were holding her hand, and then it started raining, like pouring. And it was just so like surreal, because I can't think of it better. My mom, if my mom had like orchestrated the whole thing, I can't think of a better way. You know what I mean? Like I want the heavens to cry.
And
I want
rain
my
to come
children
down. My children to be by my side.
Yes. And it was just the most beautiful death, if there's such a thing. But and then of course when the hearse came to get her, it rained again, and it was a cleansing rain, and it was just a somber rain, because I felt like the heavens were crying too with me. And, I am very religious. I completely believe that we will see our loved ones again. In fact, my mom saw her parents before passing.
I talk about that. This is a fascinating aspect. And in fact, I say it because we hear from people who are hospice, people who do emergency care, that it is not uncommon for people of all ages facing death to see their relatives, loved ones, and to talk to them.
And she did. Her Sunday night caretaker said that my mom was talking to her parents and asking the caretaker if she saw them, because they were right there with her. And so at that moment, her caretaker knew that my mom was probably going to pass soon, because she knew that happens. And then when I was there Wednesday, she saw my little sister. I had a sister who died at 3 days old. Heart, just broke my mother's heart. Her little baby, she was my little sister, 2 years younger than me, passed away. And she saw her, and she reached out her hand to her, and talk to her. So that was surreal for me because I couldn't see her obviously, but I knew my mom could.
It's almost like they're passing into the next life, and
they have one foot in this world and one foot in that world.
It's almost like they get a glimpse in advance of what is on the other side.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And for people not to believe in it, I have so many experiences of the afterlife, really, and it's, it could be a whole podcast, but it just, it's comforting. I will miss my mom till the day I die, but I know where she is.
Yeah.
I know where she is, and that is just a sweet comfort. And I just want to thank all the people that have reached out and prayed for us, the family.
Bouquets.
Oh my gosh, Ted Cruz and Heidi Cruz sent a beautiful bouquet of flowers. So many people have, and also, her. Just want to thank her caregivers for caring for my mom. I know that they were paid employees, but they became her family these last few years.
And you said they extended her life.
And they did. They extended her life. And also, Dr. Roa, who my mom absolutely adored. In fact, she had me call Dr. Roa during this time of, twilight when my mom was, very active. She wanted to talk to him and, let him know how she was doing. And so he was there for mom. He was, of course, her doctor, but he was also a very great human being, and I just want to thank him from the bottom of my heart. I know he listens to the podcast. Good
right-winger.
And yes, he listens to the podcast. So, but anyway, and of course, a lot of other people. Cindy and her husband Grayson were there for my mom. He's a dentist.
Well, with your mom, you, she was with you your whole life, and when I say with you, I mean, in my case, of course, since I left home at 17. My parents were there, and they were there for me, but they were there for me at a great distance away.
Yeah.
So I talked to them periodically. I saw them occasionally, but they weren't there in the sense of...
They weren't a part of your life.
Right. Whereas your mom lived with you when your children were young. She lived with you for 14 years. I remember at the very first event where you came to hear me speak... and we didn't even meet, but you were with your mom.
Yeah,
and the two of you, there's a photo of the two of you in the audience.
And she wanted to meet you, and my feet hurt.
Yeah, right.
But anyway,
so we didn't meet till like months later.
Story. But anyway, But mom was, like I said, she not only, but what's really kind of cool is like I knew my mom as my mom, but to hear stories of her, like she taught first grade for like almost 30 years, to hear stories of people that knew my mom, her former students who loved her. In fact, one of her former students, first grade former students, who's now in her like I think 40s or 50s, is going to sing at her funeral. I'm going to get that choir that mom wanted, because she wanted me to sing. But I have to say, there's no way I could utter a sound at that funeral.
You can't
there is no way.
Funeral.
So I got her a beautiful choir. It's gonna be a beautiful service. But so anyway, my mom will be remembered by so many people because she people are like, she was the most amazing woman I ever knew. Like things like that. It
shows you a life well lived, right? Because she had 88 years. She had a huge impact on people. And one by one, she wasn't a famous person. She was an ordinary person, but she taught school. And so think of the generations of students who came through. And then she taught in the oil camps of Venezuela. That's where she met your dad. And it's interesting how these things happen, and then they leave. Your mom is going to leave a beautiful wake.
Yeah, she is, and she's going to leave that a little hole in everyone's heart, because my mother was bigger than life. She really was. She loved people. She did. She thrived. She loved.
I joke with you. We're planning this beautiful funeral, and she'll be like, well, "How come I wasn't invited? Why am I not there?" She would have loved to be there.
But she will be there.
And she will be there.
Love you, Mom.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.